Teens' brains develop differently depending on if they're night owls or early birds. This is from the conversation by Rebecca Cooper and colleagues. It's 11 p.m. on weeknight, and your teenager still has their bedroom light on and want them to get to sleep. You want them to get to sleep for school the next day, but it's a struggle. Our new research shows what happens to the brain and behavior of young teenagers years after they've become night owls. We found this shift in sleep pattern increased the risk of having behavioral problems and delayed brain development in later adolescence. But it's not all bad news for night owls. Sleep habits shift. People's sleep patterns shift during their teenage years. Teens can stay awake longer, fall asleep later, and have a lie-in the next day. Many teens also shift from being a morning lark to a night owl. They feel more productive and alert later in the evening, preferring to go to sleep later and waking up later the next day. This shift towards eveningness can clash with teens' school and work. A chronic lack of sleep due to these mismatched sleep schedules can explain why teens who are night owls are at greater risk of emotional and behavioral problems than ones who are morning larks. Emerging research also indicates morning larks and night owls have a different brain structure. This includes differences in both the gray and white matter, which have been linked to differences in memory, emotional well-being, attention, and empathy. Despite these links, it's unclear how this relationship might emerge. Does being a night owl increase the risk for later emotional or behavioral problems? Or do emotional and behavioral problems lead to someone becoming more of a night owl? In our study, we tried to answer these questions, following teenagers for many years. What we did, we asked over 200 teens and their parents to complete a series of questionnaires about the teens' sleep preferences and emotional and behavioral well-being. Participants repeated these questionnaires several times over the next 7 years. The teens also had 2 brain scans, several years apart, to examine their brain development. We focused on mapping changes in the structure of white matter, the brain's connective tissue that allows our brains to process information and function effectively. Earlier research shows the structure of white matter of morning larks and night owls differ. However, our study is the first to examine how changes in sleep preferences might affect how white matter grows over time. And here's what we found. Teens who shifted to becoming a night owl in early adolescence around the age of 12 or 13 were more likely to have behavioral problems several years later. This includes greater aggression, rule breaking, and antisocial behaviors, but they were not at increased risk of emotional problems such as anxiety or low mood. Importantly, this relationship did not occur in the reverse direction. In other words, we found that earlier emotional and behavioral problems did not influence whether a teenager became more of a morning lark or night owl in late adolescence. Our research also showed that teens who shifted to becoming a night owl had a different rate of brain development than teens who remained morning larks. We found the white matter of night owls did not increase in the same degree as teens who were morning larks. We know growth of white matter is important in the teenage years to support cognitive, emotional, and behavioral development. What are the implications? These findings built on previous research showing differences in brain structure between morning larks and night owls. It also builds on earlier research that indicates these changes might emerge in the teenage years. Importantly, we show that becoming a night owl increases the risk of experiencing behavioral problems and delayed brain development in later adolescence rather than the other way around. These findings highlight the importance of focusing on teens' sleep-wake habits early in adolescence to support their later emotional and behavioral health. We know getting enough sleep is extremely important for both mental and brain health. And here's some good news. It's not all bad news for night owls. As our research shows, morning lark and night owl preferences aren't set in stone. Research indicates that we can modify our sleep preferences and habits. For example, exposure to light, even artificial light, alters our circadian rhythms, which can influence our sleep preferences. So minimizing late night exposure to bright lights and screens can be one way to modify our preferences and drive for sleep. Exposure to light first thing in the morning can also help shift our internal clocks to a more morning-oriented rhythm. You could encourage your teen to have their breakfast outside or go onto a balcony or into the garden before heading to school or work. This is by Rebecca Cooper, PhD candidate in neuropsychiatry, University of Melbourne, Maria D. Bass, Senior Research Fellow Psychiatry, University of Melbourne, and Vanessa Cropley, Senior Research Fellow, University of Melbourne. This was republished from Conversation under Creative Commons license, and it's on Science Alert. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.